Hello. Today I want to talk about the rules of life, the game of life, and how do you win? Because life can be seen as a game. Many people talk about it as if it's a game, and it has certain rules that I don't think the majority of people even notice or observe or pay attention to. And there is a way to win, but not in the way that people conventionally think. So, first, I want to start out with an analogy, a comparison. So, when I was a kid, I used to play video games, and of course, you play like Mario Kart, where you race against people. There's shooting games, Call of Duty, where you shoot to kill other people. At the end of the game, you get a trophy, right? You either win first place or eighth place or whatever the case is. And then there's a celebration, all that good stuff. Okay. That's one type of game. But then there's another type of game, which is like Sims. Okay, Sims or like Animal Crossing, if you've played that, where there's really no winner. There's just, you just turn on the console and you play, right? You say, okay, today I want to build a farm, and tomorrow I want to buy a cow, and today I want to construct a barn, and I want to purchase a horse, and I want to raise the horse, and I want to give him some hay, and whatever the case is, I'm going to go talk to my neighbor, right? You turn on your console, you play it, but there's no like point to the game, and there's no end to the game, and there's no winner in the game. It's just you just play because you enjoy playing because there's no competition, right? And so what I've realized recently is that life is a lot more like Sims than it is like a racing or a shooting game. And most people actually play life more like the racing shooting game because they're constantly comparing themselves to others, right? Who's making more money? Who has the bigger house? Who has more status? Who's the higher paid lawyer? Who is the more prestigious doctor? Who went to Harvard or Yale? Right? We're constantly playing by metrics that are relative to other people who are also playing the game. But what we don't realize is that the only metric that's possible is against ourselves and what we want out of life because it's a one player game. Of course, there's other players that you interact with, but the metric of success for the game is actually determined only by you, right? Because at the end of life, you don't get a prize. You just die, you disintegrate, and you don't get anything for winning first place or eighth place or 100th place. You don't lose anything if you get last place, right? Nobody, there's no competition. Nothing happens at the end. There's no big party celebration, right? So another idea I want to introduce is that there's various rules to this game of life if you observe carefully. Okay, there's various fixed objective facts about how life works. One is that we're born into life not choosing this. We don't get to choose that we got born into this game. Okay? We just get born into it and then that's it. Like we didn't make that decision. So now we're forced to play it in a sense. Now, you can actually end the game. You're allowed to end the game. You can kill yourself, but that's actually pretty hard. It's not easy to exit the game. So for the most part, the most comfortable thing to do is just continue in the game. Another objective fact about the game of life is that it's random, right? You don't get to choose when you die. People die all the time because of random accidents. I could die tomorrow. I could die right now in the next 30 seconds, and I would not be able to predict that. That's one of the rules of the game. Another rule of the game is that at the end, yeah, you don't get a prize. Nothing happens. No one wins. No one beats somebody else. Right? So if we look at the boundaries of the game, the rules, then it informs us how to play within the game. Okay? So how I look at the game of life to make an analogy is like imagine there's a football field, right? Talk about American football, let's say. And there's a bunch of aliens from outer space and they get tossed onto this field. They don't get to choose, right? Like an alien just gets boop, popped onto this field. There's boundaries to the field. There's, a field goal thingy. There's a ball that's shaped a certain way. There's referees. They don't even know how the game is played. They just popped in here and they're like, fuck, I got to play this game now. And what most people do is they're kind of like this alien. They pop onto the field not knowing the rules of the game. That's how we're born. We don't know what the rules are. We can't observe for ourselves. Nobody told us how life works. So we're trying to play football, and there's all these other players on the field who are also trying to play football. And so what we end up doing is we end up copying how they are playing football, because we don't observe for ourselves. We're not conscious. We're not thinking. So all we're doing is unconsciously copying the other players. But guess what? How did the other players end up on the field? They ended up on the field the same way that we did. They just got tossed on there. They're just aliens from another planet. Boop. Right? So everybody is copying everybody else. It's the blind leading the blind. And if we observe most people in life, they're not very content, not very fulfilled, not very happy, and usually they just live a mediocre life until they die, and that's it. Right? That's really the majority of people. So now if one becomes a bit conscious and says, let me question this a little bit. Are people really living according to how the rules of the game are? Are people maximizing how they can win at this game of life? Or are they just blindly copying other people? And so if you start observing the rules of life, well, then you realize, okay, there's certain objective facts, like the ones I just mentioned, where, at the end you die, you don't get a prize, right? You're born into this without a choice. Um, and if you realize this, and also there's no comparison because everyone is playing their own game. If you realize this, then you realize, okay, well, the only person I'm playing against is myself, or even more accurately, all I'm playing for is playing for how I want my life to turn out, right? If I log into Sims and I want to build a certain life with this mansion, this wife, certain amount of kids, certain amount of dogs, certain amount of travel, I want to have seen these countries. Like, I decide for myself, this is how I want to build my life in the world of The Sims. And I succeed, I win if I build that life, and I lose if I don't build that life. All right? I don't win if I build a bigger house than someone else. Right? All that happens is that I now have a big house, and at the end of the game I die and nothing happens. So we all think that we're playing the same game, but we're not. And we all think that we're competing against other players in the game, but we're not. The only metric that you can truly measure up against is my life the life that I want? And no life is better than the other. If I say I want to make 12K a year and live as a fisherman in a remote island, that's not better than making 12 million a year as a millionaire living in Los Angeles, right, with a private jet. That's not no better. No combination is better. It's up to each player to decide in this game of Sims, which life do I want, and if their life matches that, then boom, they succeed. That's it. Right? So I truly believe that people need to question more what life is, what are the boundaries of this game of life, and then how do I optimize my life for that. For me, one of the philosophies that I hold near and dear to myself is, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, that I have zero regrets in my life. I have zero regrets. That's how I live my life. And yeah, I try to stay true to that as much as possible. It helps me overcome all my fear, helps me overcome my doubts, helps me stay grounded, knowing that it doesn't matter. Let's say if I spend 5K and I make an investment, it doesn't go well. If I thought it was worth it, if I thought it was the right move, then it's great, because tomorrow if I get hit by a bus and I die, it really doesn't matter how much is in my bank account, how much I spent the previous day, how much I made the previous day. None of that matters. Right? So if I observe the rules of the game, then I can play the game within those boundaries. And I believe the only way to win is to decide for yourself consciously what life you want, then work every day to try to align your reality with that life, and also enjoy the process along the way. Because if you sacrifice 10, 20, 30 years to build the life that you want, but you never enjoyed all of that, and then along the way you get hit by a bus, well, in that last final moment before you die, you're going to feel regret. And then poof, you're going to vanish. It won't matter anyways. But I don't want to feel that regret in that moment before I just vanish from Earth, consciousness, black. Right? I want to feel like, damn, I was building the life that I wanted, and I enjoyed every single moment along the way. And that's it. That's the only way you win at the game of life. That's the only way you can win. And so the precursors for that are first becoming conscious, so you stop copying what everybody else is doing to win at life. Stop copying all the other people. Everybody's just copying somebody else, observing what they're doing in life, thinking that they know the rules or they somehow know, especially our parents. It doesn't mean they know anything. It doesn't mean they're living life the right way. We just by default copy them because biology. So question everything. Figure out what life means to you, what are the rules, what are the boundaries of it, and what life you want to build, and then start building towards that. Knowing that at the end of life, nobody's going to give you a reward, a prize, nothing. All you get to do is realize in that final split second, did I live the life I want or did I not? And if that matters to you, then maybe you'll wake up and choose what life you want and work towards that. And find a way also to enjoy the process of that, knowing that one of the rules of life is that it could terminate at any time. Okay, so that's my mini rant about life and the rules of life. And hopefully it gives you some perspective to all your failures, losses, wins, successes, validation. What matters? What doesn't matter? How do you actually play this game to win? Are you winning against other people, or are you just winning against the metric of what you want your life to be? It's a self-determined game. You're the only real player, and there's certain boundaries and rules that have been created by forces greater than us. How will you play?